Sometimes realize there's no way.
You have tuned into Breaking the Mask of Depression with your host, Diva with Depression.
Just waiting back.
Hey guys, welcome to Breaking the Mask of Depression with me, your host, the Diva with Depression. How's everybody doing? How are you really doing? Wow, it feels like forever that I haven't spoken to you guys. And it has been a while since you've heard my voice and since I've spoken to you guys. And it really was only supposed to be like a small little break, like for the holidays. And, life, I tell you guys, has really been lifing. First it was just, the holidays and it was supposed to be a little break. And I was relocating, which was supposed to be at the end of the year, but then it pushed up to the beginning of December. So it started with that, the relocating, and then the holidays. And then my youngest pumpkin came home for a visit. And then my oldest pumpkin got engaged. And then I got sick. And I think everybody got sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't talk about, I can't even talk about the state of the world because I get so frazzled. But all of the illnesses, the sinus infections and the COVID and the RSV and heart issues and bird flu and all of this stuff is going around. And so for the holidays, starting from Christmas on, like everyone in my family, it seems like, has been sick on and off since Christmas. So I know that I was first had a little cold and then I got a sinus infection. So that happened. And then about 2 weeks ago, my gallbladder tried to take me out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from. So I ended up having to have emergency surgery. So it just seems like every single time I was trying to get back into the swing of things, something happened. And I wanted to get back on and have a new show for you guys. And there are some changes that I'm going to make with my show. And I wanted to have that updated and finished by the 1st of February, but we didn't get there. But you know what? They say, tell God your plans and he'll laugh at you because it's his plan. God, the saints, and the ancestors are in control. So, but I'm happy to be on here with you guys today. And I really want to just come on and share some quick things with you because, like I said, the state of the world is absolutely crazy. And I feel like, although I don't watch the news and, even if you don't watch the news or read the newspapers, it's really hard to shield yourself from everything that's going on. My baby daddy, I get a big kick out of saying that, but my baby daddy, he watches the news 24 hours a day. And if he comes by my house, I tell him, you can't do that in my house because I don't watch the news in my house. Like I stopped years ago, and because it drains you, and especially now because you just don't know what to do with all that information that you're taking in, and it's scary, because you don't know what's true. You don't know what's a lie. You don't know what's, the effect that it's going to have on you personally. Like last week I freaked out because I'm hearing stuff about disability and Social Security and, that affects me directly. And so I don't know whether it was a rant. I don't know if it was, the media lying to us. I didn't know. And so I got terrified. And so we can't completely shut it out, especially if you're this is your business, and as a podcaster, I'm a creator, so I have to be on some of these social media podcasts. If you're in the media business, you have to be on social media, one platform or another. So it's kind of hard to block it out. So what I wanted to do is come on here and share with you guys that um, there's ways to get help or find someone to talk to. And I know that I say that to you guys all the time. You can go on my website and get resources. You can go to different websites and find information. But I wanted to share something. I know you guys hear me talk about the fact that I work every day on a helpline for an organization and answer the helpline calls and talking to people. And when I do, interviews and on my show and on other shows and just talking to people. And for the past, I want to say about 4 or 5 months, people have been telling me the stories about when they call hotlines or helplines, like 988 and the different crisis lines. And, of course, I hear the stories about when I'm answering the calls in my state, because, of course, I answer the helpline for my state. So I hear those stories, but then I also hear about the stories about, when you're calling 911 and when you're calling 988 and the crisis text line, and these are numbers that we just throw out there freely because we are trained to believe that these lines are helping people. And I'm hearing that people are getting put on hold. I'm hearing that the people that are answering these calls are not listening to people, the people that are calling in. They're not helping them. I saw something that said like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I saw this on social media, and the person that called said that the 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 person that answered the phone saved her life just because she was so pissed off with how neglectful the person was that she forgot that she was in crisis. And I was like, oh my God. Like when I answer a call, like I'm in it, like if somebody is nervous and they're crying and, they need help, I'm not going to hang up on them. I stay on I have had calls that last 2 days, like I will talk to them one day, and if they need additional information, they can call me back the next day. I always tell them, or text the next day. And people are calling these helplines, hotlines, and they are not getting the care that they need. So I started to do some digging for you guys, and I want to share this with you because I need you to understand what happens when you're calling. So the first thing that I want to tell you is there is a difference between a helpline, a hotline, and a warm line. So if you call like NAMI has a helpline. And so when you call a NAMI organization in your state, it's usually a helpline. And what they're doing is they're sharing resources about, number one, what their chapter can help you with in their state. So they'll tell you about their support programs that they hold in their state. They can tell you about mental health resources in their state. They can tell you about events that are going on in their state. The same with Mental Health America. They can tell you about, what their chapter does in their state. They can also provide you with the numbers for the national hotlines, like 988, crisis text line. Both of them have directories of other resources, but the helpline, the actual helpline for these organizations and their type are really just to give you help and point you in the direction of the resources that are available. That's just one, and that's not word for word, but that's just really like the general information that you will get on the helpline at some of the chapters of the larger mental health organizations in your state. So then there are hotlines, and then there are warm lines. And so the main difference between a warm line and a hotline is that a hotline is supposed to be for when you're in crisis. So if you feel that you are in danger of hurting yourself or hurting someone else, then that's when you're calling a hotline, because you need immediate assistance, you need intervention for your crisis, you need intervention because you don't feel safe. Your family member or your friend is calling because they feel like you're a danger to yourself or you're a danger to someone else. They're usually open 24/7. They can also, they can offer you resources and referrals. I don't know, the situation has to be urgent, when you're calling the hotlines, 988, 911, and they're they are trained to act in a crisis situation, in an urgent situation. And that could mean that they are going to send authorities to your house or wherever you are at. And so understand that that's what it is. So if you call a hotline, crisis intervention, crisis text line, 988, 911, then there's a possibility that there is going to be a report to authorities. Whereas a warm line is not necessarily a crisis situation. They're more of an emotional support line. So they're there to help talk to you and give you counseling and give you ongoing support. So they're there to talk to you so you can prevent the crisis from escalating. And they listen to you and they try to help you understand how you're feeling, understand what you're going through. More of a counseling type atmosphere, to prevent you from getting to a crisis situation, a hotline situation, authorities being involved situation. And of course, if they feel that you are in crisis and that you're a danger to yourself, then they can refer you to the authorities or refer you to a hotline or a crisis support line. I know that in North Carolina, they have a crisis assistant team attached to the police department, but I don't know if that's everywhere. It's in a lot of states, I should say, but the warm line can refer you to them if they feel that they cannot handle the state of mind that you may be in. But a warm line is really supposed to be much more of counseling and empathy, more care, emotional support, empowerment, guidance, and a listening ear. Not a rushing to get you off the phone, not a just somebody to listen to what you have to say, and sharing information with you, sharing resources and referrals, and just an ongoing support. And sometimes they have some warm lines that have limited hours, sort of a 9 to 5 type of thing, and there are some 24 hours, 24/7 ones. It just depends on what warm line that you are happen to find. And the there are some warm lines that don't report to authorities, and there are some that do. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But that is the major difference between a hotline and a warm line. Hotline is considered to be an emergency crisis situation, and warm lines are for a talk situation, more of a comfort thing to prevent you from getting to a crisis point. Now, I have never, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've never called either or. So I don't know what that is like. So I can't tell you from my experience because I don't have that experience. I only know what people tell me, the type of experiences that they've had. I also know that from being one of the people that answers a helpline, I can tell you that the system has completely been overloaded. I mean, just way down since COVID, and that there's not enough people to answer some of these lines, and that the people that are volunteering are overwhelmed in some situations. Not to make excuse for anyone not doing their job properly, but I will tell you that there's not enough people probably, and there's just a lack of staff, a lack of volunteers, definitely. And so, that could be a reason why the service is not as good as it could be. So I always say, no matter who I'm talking to, that you have to give some grace in some of these situations, because if they're volunteering, then that means that they're there. It's not, they're there out of the goodness of their heart, and they're trying to help people, and they're not trying to be mean. It could just be that they don't have the training, or they're overwhelmed, because it is overwhelming to be in a situation where you really do have somebody's life in your hands when you're answering a hotline, because they're calling you and they're telling you that they are thinking of harming themselves or harming somebody else, and you have to make a split decision as to how you're going to handle that. And it's difficult. And even on a warm line, or even on a helpline, which is what I do, you really are, people are calling you and they're vulnerable, and they're telling you that they have no idea what they're going to do about getting help for themselves or getting help for their loved ones, parents. I'm not even gonna lie. I cry so much, talking to parents, because when it comes to your babies, there's just nothing that you won't do for your babies. And so you really you have people's lives in your hands, and so I always just say try to give some grace, when it comes to that. So I will pause and tell you that yes, I do have the resources on my resource page on my website, divawithdepression.com. And then if you go to my Instagram page, in the highlight section, I have several resource numbers on there. The 988, the crisis text line, the different LGBTQIA lines, they're in the highlights section, and I'm going to give you some more information today. So the next thing that I want to mention is the authorities. Now, when it comes to Black and brown people, we already know that it's a crisis situation when it comes to the authorities in our communities. And we often don't come out of those situations alive. And especially when it's a mental health crisis, because they don't take the time to understand that we're not a threatening to them, but a lot of times it's a shoot first and ask questions later. And the crazy thing is that people that are in a mental health crisis are like really, they're more a danger to themselves than they are to anybody else. And that's what's sad. But so this is why every police department in the world should have the crisis intervention trained officers and department on their staff, because they need a middleman. They need police officers trained in mental health crisis situations, so they're not going into these crisis situations not knowing how to recognize it and not knowing how to de-escalate it. And so we often, Black people, will avoid calling 911 or 988 because we don't want the police to come to us. And so we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. So if we call the police, we can end up hurt. And if we don't call the police, we end up hurting ourselves or somebody else, or we're suffering in silence. And so that's where the warm line comes in, because we can call the warm line and we can talk to people that can help us, or the helpline or the hotline. But the thing is that we found out that the hotlines report to the police sometimes, or report, they're mandatory reporters for another agency. And so we stopped doing that. And so they had to create an agency, a website, to tell us which agencies or which warm lines and hotlines don't report to the police. And there are several. And I do have several of them listed on my website, but I'm going to tell you a few key ones while I'm on the air, so you know which ones I'm talking about, to give you an idea of how many there are out there. So there's the Call Black line, and that one is for BIPOC, LGBTQIA, and the Black Femme. The Trans Lifeline, the Strong Hearts Native Helpline, which is for Native Americans and Alaska Natives, the Thrive Lifeline, and there's many more. So, and there's a website that you can go, and it will list all of the it will list all of the, the sites that you can call that don't call the police. And that's something that you can keep with you so that you know who you can call. And of course, I'm going to put it on my site, and I'm going to list it on my different social media platforms. There's don'tcallthepolice.com, and it's a lot. There's housing helplines, hotlines, mental health. So there's Black Mental Health Alliance, Black Line, domestic assault lines. There's a bunch of them on the don'tcallthepolice.com. There's a trans lifeline, inclusivetherapist.com is the one that is another site that has a lot of information on them on their site also. But it's out there. And so that's what made me come on, to put this episode out, because there's so much stuff going on right now. And I feel like we are going to be losing money because everything is going to be expensive, and people are going to be losing jobs, and people have been losing jobs already, and healthcare is going to skyrocket, and it's just a lot of things. And so I wanted to make sure that you guys had this information on hand, because our anxieties are going to start being triggered, our depression and different things like that are going to be triggered, and I wanted to make sure that you had this information up front. And I'm going to put it everywhere, and I'm going to make sure that I at least, remind you at the end of every episode to keep track of this information. If you have to write it down, bookmark it for you, for your friends, family, whoever may need it, because it doesn't cost anything to call the warm lines or the helplines or the hotlines. And, if you can't talk to your family or friends, why not call someone and just talk for a few minutes, if that's going to help you? It could be lonely, mental illness is lonely as it is, so mental illness mixed together with this shit show that we're living through is crazy. It's crazy work going on right now. And I need for us not to be ashamed to ask for help. I need for us not to feel like we have to do it all alone. I need for us to know that we deserve to get the help that we need, even if there's group support, support groups online, mental health. There's mental health organizations that do free group therapy, group support, free support groups. So take advantage of them. Okay. We got to do what we got to do, and I know that we're supposed to be standing back and, getting some rest. If that's what you choose to do, then do that, and don't feel like that you need to do anything else. Because first and foremost, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of your immediate family, your immediate circle. So you do that, and if you have time after that, then, you choose what you're going to do. But we have to take care of ourselves and take care of, who we're the caretakers for. um, and that's that. So I hope this information has been helpful. Like I said, it will be on divawithdepression.com. It will be on my Instagram page and TikTok and Threads. In those different places, I will have the information there. I will definitely be updating. Like I said, I'm gonna be revising some of my website pages and social media pages, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stay and adding some new episodes, and we have some great guests coming up. So please stand by, and I hope that you guys, in the midst of the craziness, find a little bit of peace. Please stay well. Take precaution because listen, like I said, I was just in the hospital. Everything that they say is going on is really going on times 10, really. So take care of yourself. Find some peace. Cover your mouth. Wear a mask if you have to. And stay well, okay? Bye.